Hello and welcome to week 3 of biology. This week you'll be learning about atoms and molecules, how they bond, and some unusual properties of water. Not the most exciting topics this week, but they're going to help give us a foundation for understanding biomolecules, which we'll learn about next week. So let's go ahead and take a look. All right, so here's the schedule. These numbers correlate with the days, so you can sort of just look at the numbers right here. So first you're going to be reviewing atoms, molecules, and compounds. This is a short video, and it looks super boring right here, but the guy's voice has this nice British accent, and they kind of make it really interesting and easy to understand. So I highly recommend watching this one. This slideshow goes over, again, atoms, matter, building blocks. If you feel like this is really new for you or you don't remember any of it, I would recommend watching Bill Nye's video as well, because he's just funny. I like him, and he's very thorough and kind of helps you understand it better than a slideshow. But if you've got it and you can kind of scroll through the slideshow and you're like, oh yeah, I remember all of that, then you're good. Okay, the second day you are going to be going over different types of bonding. And so that is another slideshow. I'm going to just, okay, slideshow. And it's going to talk about bonding. And carbon is one of those elements that is in all living things. And in fact, when we say something is organic, we actually mean that it has carbon in it. I know when you go to the grocery store, they mean a lot of different things for organic, but organic, by definition, means that it has carbon in it. And all living things have carbon in it, and you'll be able to watch this video and understand why carbon loves to bond with all the other molecules. And here's kind of also a list of what's in this video. He talks kind of fast, and soon your eyes start glazing over, but it's very informative. And if you don't know about the types of bonds or the Lewis dot structures and stuff like that, he kind of goes over that. All right. Day 2, you're also going to be doing something called the Element Builder Simulation, and I'm going to make a separate video to just walk you through that if this is your first time using a Gizmo lab. So I'll let that video explain how to do it. But you'll be answering your questions on this sheet and turning them in here. Day 3, you're going to be focusing on the properties of water and what makes water so unusual, and how that also affects all life on Earth because of water's unusual properties. And that is to prepare you. Oh, there's like a little link here for a website that gives you the 5 properties, but this video will kind of go into more detail about the 5 properties. Those 5 properties you're going to be investigating in a lab at home. You only have to do 2 of the 5 activities because you might not have a dropper, or you might not have ethanol or detergent. So you just pick pick 2 of the activities that you can do. You can do more if you'd like. That would be great. But you're going to do the pre-lab questions, which, if you're not sure, you can kind of go back to some of these sources. But you'll do the pre-lab questions, and then you'll pick 2 activities to do. And then the last assignment this week is to choose one of these properties of water and explain what that property means, and then explain how it affects life on Earth. So again, this information right here, the amoeba sisters and the properties of water, is going to help you answer this discussion. And right here, this little link right here will take you to another site, another Google Doc, which will give you lots of information. Please don't look at my chat right now. Okay, so that's it for that. I'm going to go ahead and let you, if you're good to go and you know atoms and molecules and compounds and elements, if you know the difference, sayonara and have a great week. If you want to see my little gummy bear demonstration, then just stick around, okay? Actually, they're not gummy bears, they're gummy vites, okay? So what I would like to do is I'd like to show you the difference between an atom and a molecule and the difference between an element and a compound, because those words are kind of thrown around, and when you go through the slideshow, it's going to be really fast and you might not quite get it. Okay, so I have all these gummy vites, which no one's going to want to take anymore. Okay, and notice they're in different colors. So I'm going to pretend that these gummy vites represent different atoms. And of course, atoms are so small you can't see them, but these are our big atoms. And everything in the whole world is made out of atoms. And we call things that are made out of atom, anything that's made out of an atom, we call matter. So what's matter? Everything's matter. And all matter is made out of atoms. So here are atoms, and notice there's different kinds of atoms. And these different kinds are called elements. And if you ever look at the periodic table of elements, there's like, I don't know how many there are now. There's a lot. Okay? There's like 103 elements that make up everything that you can find on this earth and in the air. It's made out of one of those elements. So one atom, okay, here's one atom. The difference between an atom and a molecule is a molecule is two or more atoms bonded together. So when I start connecting these atoms together by their bonds, then I am now making a molecule. Okay? So I'm just going to make a very simple one because these are vitamins. Okay. Here's my molecule. Okay. It could have been just 2 of them, it could be 4, it could be 24 atoms, but as long as I have more than one atom bonded together, I now just made a molecule. So that's the difference between an atom and a molecule. Okay, this is an atom and this is a molecule. Now, what's the difference between an element and a compound? Well, we already said that the periodic table has all these elements and each one is different. So this is an element, this is an element, this is an element. Each one is different. And by the way, what makes one element different from the another element is just the number of protons that it has in the nucleus, which is so crazy. Just because you have one more proton than another, that makes it a completely different element. So the difference between hydrogen and helium is 1 proton. But anyway, so here's an element, here's an element, here's an element. When we're just talking about one element, so if I have this, that's an element. If I connect it and make a molecule, but it's still the same element, this is an element. So this is an element, and this is an element. Okay. This is an atom, and this is a compound. An atom and a molecule, but it's all the same element. Okay. Let's say they're all hydrogen. But when I start mixing elements, so let's say I put this element with this element, suddenly this is a compound. Okay. So this is a compound because they're not all the same elements. Water has an oxygen, which is represented by the reddish purple gummy vite, and hydrogens. So these are hydrogens and this is oxygen. This is a compound, okay? Because it is two different elements combined. And it's a molecule. It's a molecule of water because it's more than one atom. Okay? So just to review, this is an element, this is a compound. So anything that has more than one element, so CO2, carbon dioxide, that has C's, that has carbon, and that has oxygen, that's a compound. But if we're just talking about oxygen, O2, that's an element. So compound, element, and then atom, molecule. Atom, molecule. And you're going to be learning about water and why water is such an interesting molecule. Well, molecules, so atoms bond together. I've used sticks, but actually atoms bond together by either sharing their electrons. So, you know, that whole like model of an atom. On the outside are these electrons that are negatively charged particles zooming around. And sometimes atoms will want to share electrons with each other, and that because they're sharing, it kind of holds them together. And we call that a covalent bond. And there's actually a little cartoon on this page where it shows two electrons sharing, two atoms sharing their electrons, and that's what holds them together. And that's a covalent bond. Sometimes atoms will give one electron to the other atom. And when you give an electron to another atom, now this one becomes more negative because electrons are negative, and this one lost an electron, so now this one is positive. Well, there's a Paula Abdul song, it's called Opposites Attract, and this negative now is attracted to this positive. So they stick together not because they're sharing anything, but they're opposite charges, and so that's what holds them together. And that's what salt does. And another kind of bond is what water does with each other. So water, this is my last point if you are waiting to go. So water tends to have, overall its charge is not positive or negative, but one side of the molecule tends to be more negative and this side tends to be more positive. So what happens is this side is positive, and so if you have another water molecule, these poor gummies, nobody's going to want to eat them. Okay. So the purple end tends to be more positive, the yellow end tends to be more negative, and so even though they're not like bonded together like the sharing covalent bond, they have these sort of weaker bonds where the negative side of this water is attracted to the positive side. The negative side of this water is attracted to the positive side of this water molecule. And so that's called hydrogen bonds, and that's going to contribute to the unique properties of water and why it tends to kind of hold itself together. So hopefully that helps a little bit. I am happy to explain more if you get stuck somewhere, or give you a better reference or resource if you feel like you need more help understanding something. It does go by a lot of information quickly, kind of because I feel like you have been learning about atoms and stuff for a while, but feel free to reach out if you get stuck, and I will be making another video on the gizmos very soon. Have a great week.